Second one is pandemics. Iceborne pathogens are inevitable. Pandemics are optional. Second one, T-virus with climate change melting ice. We're witnessing a virus hotspot for pandemics. Thankfully, cooperation on monitoring permafrost is possible with T22 virus. Scientific collaboration among Russia and monitoring, which halted might restart nations, are hopefully resume however expansion kills cooperation. Test for 17 virus. Russia could threatened by expansion in the Arctic and perceived military threat. Russia's behavior could change from cooperative to conflictual. Moreover, top 21 rights. The military is a disease factor. Diseases are inherent to the military. Crowded living, sleeping, training, practice, and pressure from military leaders to prioritize goals over public health. Continue as pseudos are devastating. Ban of 21 rights. 750 American military facilities open up in 80 nations around the window of their country as such a dominant presence. Cooperating peace and rights of Russia comes to the area where a virus hotspot is most likely to engage. We need all Arctic states to address them with a collaborative approach. Absent cooperation, YAM-16 rights, there may be a point where pathogens become so aggressive the entire host population dies. Human civilization may go approaching center. Brutal darts of contenders to his indigenous people. Militarization jeopardizes indigenous sovereignty. Anglo 20 rights of military buildup resulting the leaders' impacts on indigenous communities. Military projects transform the geography of the north of buildup undergo sovereignty while threatening the landscape of their cultural survival. Indigenous values may seem small, but it impacts their everyday life. Bourgeois Bourgeois spoke for rights that invisible genocides are hidden from view. It's essential that we exercise hyper-vigilance and less dramatic permitted everyday violence that render participation in genocidal acts and policies possible. Contenders to raise BMDs. Arctic BMDs are on the table, but specifics remain unclear. In Senate 20 rights, with competition in the Arctic, the Air Force prioritizes missile defense, but doesn't provide how much the service is willing to spend. Affirming changes the game. In Senate rights, the Air Force is 80% of the Defense Department's average. Russia's buildup of offensive. Dude, what the? Wait, hold on. My computer like.
Very good, I see it.
Yeah. Okay, I got signed up, but I'll continue. 237. Yeah. The Air Force is 80% of the Defense Department. Okay, yeah, I decided. I'll just start back at incident. Really good. The Air Force at 80% of the Defense Department's efforts. Russia's buildup of offensive air assets led the department to be aware to recapitalize tech in the Arctic. This necessitates aggressive ASAS Chen 18 rights to protect from missiles. A beefed up defense system can easily become offensive systems with the capability to destroy satellites. Arctic geopolitics mapped by impacts. Rainbow 22 rights satellites are venturing into the Arctic as changing geopolitical climate drives the demand for more bandwidth. BMP's great chance of space conflict. It's problem like dominant 18 rights. The inexperienced nation sharing space leaders at risk of unwise judgment and escalation. This with slippery slope crucially sheer 15 by Star Wars. Unleash massive firestorms similar to nuclear winter. Contenders for the Indo-Pacific Arctic inattention has resulted in rebalancing Taiwan. 23 rights. America's lack of interest has pushed Arctic states to take on security responsibilities that will make up for America's lack of willingness and ability to continue Russia and China. This will allow these to focus on the Indo-Pacific more important to national interests and Arctic reverses poverty. Latin America 22 rights. Beijing's main preoccupation are Taiwan and the SES fears about China's Arctic divert defensive from where the PRC's capabilities warrant such status. The Arctic present China baiting Arctic states to overcommit. That's devastating. 20 rights and the use doesn't remain dangerous. The Indo-Pacific China will dominate such a scenario. Also, 70 rights. South Korea and Tokyo would immediately develop programs instigating nuclear arms. In addition, foreign of 20 rights uncertainty by risking by Chinese leaders owing to tactical miscalculation, devastating China robotics and rights Asian Pacific flashpoints and disputes can snowball turning nuclear. 95 is escalation. Subpoint 8 is Norway. Military presence in the Arctic involves Norway. Higher 18 rights in the high north, the more visible U.S. presence in the rest of the Norwegian and U.S. security are inseparable. Norwegian forces becoming Latin versus combat closer to Russia's border. Episodes are likely to escalate and lead to a crisis with Russia before use requires activating Norwegian forces to create conflict so intense allies get involved. Escalation with Norway, Russia, and Norway guarantees nuclear use. Territory rights. Norway has been most likely battleground for nukes. Commandeer territory when endangered Russia's arsenal and precipitate early use. Overall, territory includes Russia's nuclear forces will be placed on high alert and establish a nuclear apocalypse. Subpoint B is Russia. U.S. Arctic policy is battles. 123 is the current Arctic strategy promises presence only is required while promising investments in domain awareness and hybrid. It avoids escalation. More for Russian depends on the region. David's conflict with Canada 22 right. Russia will start conflict in the Arctic. It's an economic lifeline and Moscow's resource base. Fauci 22 clears Russia has modernized its navy and developed new hypersonics. Will take almost 10 years to catch up. Overall, British 21 to the Arctic is not a contested region problem. Wars regions don't become theaters of conflict overnight. Consent after military buildups. Indeed, with 21 rights from Russia's perspective, use of are offensive because their impact on strike capability relies on deterrence, increased risk of war through miscalculations. There's a mismatch between Western deterrence and the Russian concept. Thus, whether confirmed Russian forces are primed for escalation, Western deterrence will cause such a situation that leads to armed conflict beyond surviving escalation. Right now, 20 military article with China and Russia, common cause to draw out closer China-Russia ties. Russia will not give the sovereign land. China won't tolerate remove the transformation of attention to military task force surpass all conflicts. Crucially, Roger 22 writes, conflicts between nuclear powers will lead to nuclear war, ending civilization through a nuclear winter. Or no, it doesn't say, yeah, just ending civilization. Okay. Can you also?
Yeah, I'll type it. I'm just going to send it in there. It's fine.
Okay, just let me know. I think. Here we go.
Okay. Henry and Stacy speaking first for the app. From the again, everybody good? We from potential one of the oil energy industries are expanding the Arctic as Power 23 notes that the surface of the as the surface of the Earth warms, fossil fuels are one of the most lucrative industries in the Great White North. This has disastrous impacts, and 513 concludes that scientific consensus is that an oil spill is inevitable. Luckily, the Coast Guard can resolve with 21 finds that they have the ability to rapidly respond to an oil spill with long endurance robots that can cover more than 1,000 miles. Reducts determine how much oil there is and where it's spreading. The best location to mitigate damage. However, they can't solve clean 17 finds the closest U.S. Coast Guard station. The Arctic is 2,000 nautical miles away. Given the lack of infrastructure, thankfully, any major military presence would accompany infrastructure development. Team Set 22 redeployment of forces in the Arctic will be hampered by spares in infrastructure. U.S. strategy aimed at new capabilities needs to ensure access to support infrastructure. Unmanned spills destroy the Arctic food chain beyond recovery. Shorting 22. If the Arctic food web, even the tiniest bit of oil, the entire food chain runs into a problem. Biodiversity loss called extinction. Horizon 19. Biodiversity loss is a threat multiplier, pushing societies to exacerbating conflict and fueling terrorism. Biodiversity loss constitutes an existential threat. Intended to his subs. Russia wants to expand the North Atlantic. Wall 23. Russia is seeking the Arctic for power projection via the Greenland, Iceland, UK gap involving long-range precision strikes of high-value assets. Flipping 19 notes that submarine launch ballistic missiles have the potential to negate the U.S.'s NC-3 systems before we can respond. Wars imminent. Levon 23. Russia could use nuclear subs on submarines or persistent patrols on the U.S. coast. And in the year end, Code 23. Russian subs have been on strange routes, including in the U.S. coast. No detection exists. Cosine 23 explains that the Russian subs are especially quiet and carry no missiles that could be determined. They could attack vital infrastructure in the U.S. If those subs live in the Arctic, it'll be impossible to detect. NATO officials acknowledge they can't see everything they want to see. Affirming first AI innovation. Wall 22. The United States government and NATO need to recognize the use of AI tools. Leveraging it may lead to novel applications for militarization. Without AI, the U.S. may not gain insight at the speed it needs. AI detection laws X-20. The idea will be to track submarines using the Goof gap, and they can detect things, recognizing submarines moving through the water and what direction. Detectability revives deterrence. Peter 21. NATO we need to open ocean ASW capacities, counter threats. ASWs on the top prioritization list of Western NATO's autonomous systems can't provide NATO with affordable and scalable ASW to maintain their undersea advantage. If we don't act now, Top 22 finds that Russian submarines can drop a strategic nuclear strike. Extinction Star 15. A nuclear war will create an environment too cold and too dark to grow food, means advantage forever. Contention 3 is the NSR, Colony 22. Russia has control over the route and is limiting traffic for foreign ships. The recent escalation of Russia's control over the NSR is indicative of its ambitions in the Arctic and a warning sign of Arctic's desire to monitor and control economic development. Thankfully, President ensure trades access. Part 21, with the United States in the region and limited military presence, there are ways to protect shipping routes. Once these shortcomings are addressed, the United States will be capable of enforcing sovereignty in the region. The United States needs to invest in its military role and the ability to ship goods in the region. Indeed, January 23, the United States continues involvement in the Arctic. Governance bodies and international forums will keep the Arctic conflict free. Long-term peace and stability will depend on the strength of the form of more Arctic-capable Coast Guard and DoD forces. North Sea trading routes are key to preventing filtration. War Chariot 15 of the NSR ease traffic along congestional trade routes against the volatile Middle East and Horn of Africa. Nations in Asia are dangerously overdependent on straits and trigger future clashes over control of sea lanes. North Asian War specifically goes nuclear and calls USS Drawlin. Adams 14 reports that there are no mechanisms in place to constrain military escalation at Asia. These escalation dynamics can move rapidly in strong-scale nuclear conflict as allies of the United States would ultimately be involved in escalated conflict. Contention for cyber. Arctic cybersecurity infrastructure is failing now. All 20 explains that Arctic infrastructure is vulnerable. Navy reduce these vulnerabilities and incorporate resiliency principles for cyber resilience. It's critical to Arctic missions. Expanding its military presence demands an increase in cybersecurity. Voice in 21 resilience is key to cybersecurity in the Arctic's harsh environment. Data hubs require new methods of resilience, sustained military activity, strengthening cybersecurity, emboldens collaboration, and intel sharing. Schmidt 20 explains that the Arctic's strategic importance within NATO is not even matched with infrastructure investments. Washington expanding scientific infrastructure in the region will be key to supporting infrastructure for large-scale transatlantic collaboration. That's key. NASA 22 corroborates that Arctic data sharing is on hold, cutting off key sources of info for climate modeling that help researchers predict warming. The Arctic is warming at least 3 times as fast as global average. It's crucial to large nations keep communication open. International modeling key. So far 13. Avoiding climate change requires broad multilateral cooperation. Efforts to cut emissions must be global without cooperation. Day 3 are on each other's efforts. Modeling solves climate change. NSW. Modeling the climate helps us understand how climate change over time, what might cause it to respond to different factors. Even marginal progress will save millions. Killing 19 finds air pollution will kill 150 million for every degree of warming. Absent action, spectrum 19 explains by 2050. The planet plunges into feedback with ever hotter conditions. Armed conflicts over resources are likely to result in the end of human civilization.
Great.
Yeah. Please.
All right. First question is on your contention 3 about the NSR. What does the Gennaro evidence isolate regarding the desire for peace in the region?
I don't know. You tell me.
All right. The Gennaro evidence does not say that troops are key to peace, rather that the U.S. must continue governance in the Arctic. The sentence before says that cooperation with Russia is resuming now and must not be broken.
No, but our argument is that right now they don't have the capacity. That's the Part 21 evidence that says without military presence, they don't have the leverage. So even if the Gennaro evidence finds that cooperation is somewhat important,
important. What we say is we don't have any forms of cooperation without
Well, no,
military
the
leverage,
Gennaro
which is
evidence says
Conley
that-
22 evidence. I know what the Gennaro
It says
evidence
that
says, but
cooperation
just
is
answer
occurring
the
now.
question. Can I get a question?
Sure.
Okay. Let's talk about your argument about BMDs. Is the argument that like that we need to strengthen BMD capabilities?
No, it's that we shouldn't strengthen DMG.
Why?
Because it takes it as conventional escalation towards space, because these BMDs can be easily postured offensively. That would cause Russia to be angry at us because LEO has tons of satellites.
If we independently, in any situation, increase our BMD capabilities, absent the Arctic, do we trigger your impact?
Yeah, I suppose so, but you
Okay.
have to win that.
Okay, you got a question.
Let's talk about the Gennaro evidence again.
Yay.
Uniqueness question is not the hard evidence from 2021. The question is the U.S. cooperating and has continued involvement right now?
I don't know. The argument is pretty simple. What we tell you is that right now our leverage in the region isn't strong enough, which is why Russia has cut off most of our access to the
Wait.
NSR, and we need leverage.
Hold on,
That's the
hold on.
Conley 22 evidence.
Wait, why is the evidence from 2019 but it's tagged as 2023?
What evidence are you telling me?
The Gennaro evidence. I'm just
I don't
looking
know.
at it
It must-
more, and the more I look at it, the less. I like it.
Okay, I'm directing you to different evidence, but even if it's like tagged differently, like you can just.
You can have a question.
Okay. Your scenario about Norway. What does your link author? What does he think about Norway?
I'm sure you can tell me. I mean,
He's actually a big like Russian propaganda fan. So he like hates Norway, and he like wants to spread like fear and propaganda. And
that doesn't.
okay, yeah, I'm getting to it. So, absent this author, is there any scenario where previously us backing Norway through NATO or other commitments has caused them to be emboldened to the fact that they've launched a
Well, the
strike
first
against Russia?
argument to make is that past cooperation has not been on the scale of the affirmative. Like
They
you
don't.
should note that Ukraine means that the demands would be substantially higher. A lot of arguments say that the U.S. has never really let Norway to do like a ton of stuff, and so this time it would be.
The scenario is that Norway has to escalate so far to trigger U.S. response, right? To trigger U.S. support.
Right, the tripwire argument, right?
What is
And
Article?
also, like,
what is
how-
Article 5 in NATO if not a tripwire?
It's that an attack on one is an attack on all. I know what Article 5
Yeah,
is. The
so-
argument
so
regarding
they have
Norway
to-
says that they would break from that, which is why the allies get involved.
Okay, sure.
We'll start. Hold on, what's it? Fishy. You got it.
Alright, those are the decades. Anyone not ready? Are you saying it up?
Yeah, just.
On the first contingent efforts of drilling is totally non-unique. Climate change is opening up the region, and evidence is one drop of oil should trigger their impact. All unique is on why drilling is totally non-unique, and there's no biodiversity impact. Lost source, extinction of pandemics, 517, extinction by about 95% of species were now 96, extinction to the engine of revolution affected by which a natural source and fully adapted animal harvesting forest. The extinction will fall by recovery. After will be overall geology. This is how the 99.9 species have chronic 18 are common diversity can be hazardous. These are prevalent and HIV, Ebola, malaria, dengue fever, key of biodiversity, and human duties of basic features of nutrition increases will adapt. And biodiversity loss has no impact and decrease the chance of pandemic. 14. Biodiversity loss reduces common disease for disease expected to increase transmission approach zero where hurricanes, population, pandemics, loss results in disease becoming rare. Even when biodiversity reduces infectious disease, numerous decrease increased biodiversity and net income positive association and solve total extinction of life on Earth. Volder O2. Life continues by subexit recovers of the expensive form of end of the dinosaur enabled mammals to diversify. If the rise reach infinity, there would be no fish over distinct life extinction are necessary. And that leaves ecosystem similarly named O2. The more complex the system, the more stable, the more the system, the more numerous pathogens allow perturbation can propagate these and lead to collapse. And there's also zero internal link on why terrorism happens post biodiversity collapse. And on the sheet 2, if the card can identify where we need to boost military presence, we wouldn't need to affirm because then we would need AIs and evidence indicate that we already have intent to do, which is why the card concludes that NATO and the US are already working together. And no worldwide Abbas key incentives already exist and we're doing it now. And also indicate that Russia has the ability to use nuclear subs, but not that they can use them and grow. And no evidence strong uniqueness says that Russian war is imminent and also gives lack of incentive means you should air neck on the uniqueness debate. And undersea view surveillance possibility gaps. Russia 16 news SOS arrays use the next submarines are placed in strategic checkpoints like Iceland and GIUK God, allowing the US Navy to track them. On their sheet 3, 1-0 time from the argument, the hard evidence says we need ice rigs, but those will only do by 2026 at the earliest because of organization delays, and no one will use the NSR. Car 21 explains that the Arctic future economic potential have been exaggerated. Operations are key to effectively on the only limited basis the harsh environmental iceberg or iceberg can be hazardous in navigation year-round, despite saving distance fuels costs are increased and speed reduced during an ice transmitted device savings and Russian expansion while NSR fails climate first. First, multi 17 rights and lack of ports, icebreaking regulatory conflicts and inter-navigation corroborated by doing forward figures of transit performance shipping. The NSR remains risky and more expensive than alternatives. And Ukraine, multi 22 rights in Ukraine exposed a disconnect between goals and reality, modernization, funding limited by sanction and isolation, resources restricted by energy standoff and lack of tech investment, and also Russia was in the NSR for trade. They wouldn't cut off trade to the US because then trade can't go through. On their C4 first overview, they didn't read a single carbon warning, so why climate change is bad. You shouldn't give them any warning later, even as responsibility turns it justifies and then reclarification and applies the after written warning impacts of debate and speaker responsibility killing fairness and something class. Second overview. The Dodgers of the climate the harms of climate change will align us to majority benefit IBD 18. And you said if you review climate change models exaggerate warm by 45% of the planet warm by not knowing enough to call the end of the world, even if it does 5% of the time scale over which such changes have needed humanity able to adapt to extinction. Really concludes that adoption means we can capture the benefits and avoid harms. A few terms. First, ice age. Robert told reports an emission will the next ice age. We are probably entering a new ice age right now. However, we are not noticing a due the effects of carbon dioxide for us. Our unique is verified by peers. More 16. Starting by the time of many glacier and interglacial periods in the absence of human caused CO2 and other major glaciers will have a curve along the pattern for the past 8,000 years. And ice age would result in extinct and is compared with Western climate change. Global warming. Talks about 04. The images of modern splicing will be swept away by the advanced ice more complex than all man-made global warming. It would normally lead to the extinction of the human population. And avoiding starvation. Reinterlinks towards carbon fertilization. Sherwood 15. As the air carbon dioxide carbon rise due to the great growth rates of nearly all plants means the great greening of the earth, which shows no sign of declining or even leveling off. This prevents 16 is O2. With additional atmosphere CO2 we need out of the plants and parasitic research to survive. And rainfall. Related things with the order that works with significant China's rain sources will shift towards increasing rainfall in the dry north and reducing flooding the hot tub. Rainfall solves 16 to Brennan 18. Most water salty uses the plants and animals not for rate and storage of life on earth and earthworms. It's 07. The increase in the air CO2 comes between induced increase in earthworm numbers, earthworm and soil method response to increase in the air CO2 from via a number of plant-mediated phenomena to with further enhancing positive effects of CO2 on planet growth. And that's key. Over 99% that increase in the earth's warm population might be the key to all survival and human race to by restoring human race death and for because we just comparatively there's quantified 31% of friends has become green. The end of decline in family the soil is due to warming and more carbon dioxide.
You just marked it off.
Yeah. Alright, it's
Okay, credit. We're starting now. Yep. Yeah, no, I hear you. All right. Anyone not ready?
This is just our case, right?
Yeah, that's your case. I'll run out the vote. Anyone not ready? On oil, we'll concede it's 9 week, which means they don't garner any offense off the returns because it's inevitable. On subs, the first response that they said is that our card is bad, that would boost military presence regardless. No, they concede that we are not doing AI integration in these status quo. Sure, we're doing other forms of military integration, but our specifically in the isolation, we need to do AI integration, which also makes all the other responses about incentive or exist regardless because we need to do it right now. You need to affirm to spark that incentive. Then they just say that like our evidence indicates that it's happening right now. No, that is conventional form of radar, but our evidence indicates that they're not doing AI technology, which is why it's conceded that the Russian submarines that they have in the status quo are unable to be detected, which means our offense is like still basically true. Then they say that like they're already solving the status quo. Again, not true. They conceded the evidence that Russia has new submarines that are not able to be detected, which means the only path to solvency is with gas. That way, on the way, it's really simple. Right now, they conceded the evidence that incentive exists and it will happen within a year, which is conceded evidence from case, which means if we prove that fight happens within years, short circuits all of their arguments about climate change, because all of their arguments about climate change, for example, ice age, etc., take so long to materialize, which means we fundamentally short circuit their arguments. On NSR, we'll concede that there's zero time frame and that expansion fails, which means there's no impact to their terms. Go to cyber. First, they just say that we didn't read a warrant. Yes, we did. We say that the plant plunged into feedback proof ever hotter elevated conditions, which means we're not able to grow causes span, which is definitely better internally into extinction. But then we would say that their overview of how we need adaptation takes out all of their warrants below. If we cannot do adaptation because they have conceded our link that when you don't have cyber resiliency, when you can't do climate modeling, we don't have adaptation. It means we can't respond. All of their warrants about how it's good in the first place are reliant on the fact that we are doing adaptation and the fact that it will work and that we will collaborate. But if we are not doing adaptation, which is conceded from case, it means none of their impacts matter at all. We would also say this is probably an independent reason to drop them. This is literally Republican rhetoric that climate change is a good thing. Like, it's just kind of gross. On the line rallying, though, they say that ice age happens. One, no time frame isolated as to when this happens. We would say that our definitely short circuit on avoiding starvation. All of these warrants, again, no time frame isolated on when this happens, or no warrants provided as to what like starvation is happening right now in the status quo. They don't isolate how many people they're affecting. It's basically warrantless, and there's no impact for it. Let's go to that case. On to next verse, non-union oil industry just refers to the permafrost trouble of 18 oil streams seas and a network of pipelines on top of permafrost, the gas pools, out of the ocean and keeps the ground frozen. 2 Arctic pandemic low risk, sharp return to the air conditions that release the virus, also because the viruses before the okay high-speed probability viruses in harder, the problem is small, the light and oxygen can solve the rapidly decay. 3 countermeasures solved, 2022 the U.S. military countermeasures to the CDC International Health Organization partnerships between military and civilian disease, surveillance systems, the rapid development of countermeasures. But on their indigenous people's argument, first human front, CR23, the U.S. government will report about the last community civil resilience to the impacts of climate change while working to reduce emissions from the Arctic to only global mitigation arguments, which definitely turns their link, but then you can turn it again because Arctic involvement improves indigenous economies by Max 17, despite the doomsday warnings that negative leaders have brought business and CEOs in the oil industry to transform the North Slope from a struggling third world economy to a enforcement nation. Then on BMDs. First, the U.S. increases BMDs all the time. It hasn't led to space conflict. We legit just upgraded our fiscal 2024 missile defense projects to do BMDs in other regions, which should have furthered that. In fact, they don't give you a bright line to when this happened, but then we've taken turn again because we increased satellites. Oswald 25 to deter Russian China use of looking to polar communication satellites. 2 implications. First, it deterrents arms training. 2, reliable surveillance satellites across the Russia and others that are doing increased activity of aggressive power sources to try and cut the response there. Go to Indo-Pacific first. Non-UK pivot is inevitable. Townsend 22, the U.S. returns to the Indo-Pacific is losing its by second to Lincoln military. People are not deployed to meet no trade-off. Middles 19, roughly 40% of the people joining the military are not deployed at all. Then on South Korea, we would say that they wouldn't proliferate. Power 23, Korea should just not want to abolish nuclear arms. On Norway, 1, their evidence is also he is literally a propagandist who wants to see Russia survive. He's against Norway. Then we said that increased U.S. military can solve Norwegian tensions. According to 22, Norway faces a challenging security environment with an increase in local military activity. Allied presence is now more important than ever. Is low tension. They feel that they're being attacked. The only thing that can solve is the United States. Then on Russia, we would say they conceded our unique picture on our side of the political line. They will attack within a year, which means it's try or die for the app. Also, our Baker 22 evidence finds that what matters to Russia is presence and power. They will feel deterred by the United States if we go in. The only reason that they feel that they can attack right now is because their submarines are not detectable by the United States. They conceded that when you affirm it, increases AI innovation, which means they don't attack.
Right. Ready for Ross?
Yeah.
Okay. On your argument on subs, you say that the U.S. is increasing satellites right now. Doesn't it just non-unique turn you beat on BMDs?
Satellites?
Yeah.
Does it non-unique the term we read on BMD?
Yeah.
Like, maybe, but we would say still, okay, I'll get to it. We would say that, like, there's obviously still shortcomings, and, like, if you read evidence on the question that, like, it's great right now, we can have that debate later, but we would say, like, inherently, if there is tension, there are things that can be solved.
Okay.
Could I have a question? Okay, let's talk about you say that like in order for us to reap the benefits, right, we have to do adaptation. If we are not able to do like cyber, if we're not able to do cyber defense, which stops all climate innovation, which is conceded from case, how are we going to do adaptation?
Wait, what's the reason why cyber stops any possible climate change?
Yes, for sure. So this was dropped completely in like rebuttal. The link is pretty simple. Right now, there is no collaboration between countries because we don't have cyber resilience or cyber defense. But when you affirm, you increase cyber resilience, which makes other countries able to cross the line, share data with us.
But that's not reasons why we can't have any chance of adapting at all.
No, our evidence from the top of case says that there is no collaboration right now.
Yeah, we don't need to collectively collaborate to adapt.
No, this was just conceded from case that the only way, the evidence that was conceded from case says that the only way that we can solve climate change is through collaborative efforts, because if we're not collaborating, states can free ride on others' efforts, which means they won't innovate. That's just conceded.
But I'll take, wait, so they're not innovating, who's innovating?
What?
There's at least one country that's innovating, right? Or do they have to like collectively?
We have the evidence, which is conceded, says we need to collectively innovate. Like, this would just be so fresh.
Okay,
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay,
Wait,
let's,
which part is that? Schmidt? Is that Schmidt?
like, maybe, but also, again, so fresh.
Okay, sure.
I'm gonna,
Oh, actually, let's talk about Ukraine. Which piece of evidence says that Russia would like respond in a year?
you can command F here.
Okay, yeah. So read me the line from the drone, which is what you say says it has to happen in a year.
Again, not in a speech, but sure. You can read it on that.
Well, yeah, it doesn't say that. It says Russia could have subs on.
Yeah, and then the evidence that we also read says that they're all ready to like have presence.
Wait, no. Tell me which card says an attack happens in a year. Read me
The evidence that says that they have the capabilities, and then also the evidence that says that they already have the incentive to do it in these status quo because we can't monitor them. Again, conceded.
What's the incentive? No, there was responses on how there's zero
No, but
accurate
that
analysis,
evidence
whereas
was
our
wrong.
negative. What's the accurate analysis then?
That Russia feels as though the United States cannot track their subs in the status quo, and they will use
Why is there inability to track subs a reason for Russia to escalate?
Yeah, sure. As I was saying, they would attack our nuclear capabilities, which is an incentive because obviously they like are expanding.
Why do they want to attack our
Because they're expanding in the status quo, and if they can attack U.S. capabilities, like they can achieve a revisionist power, which is
All right, let's start that. Oh wait, pause for real quick. Can I see all the cards for the terms on indigenous people?
It's at 58.
yeah.
Not sure. Maybe it's not 20 seconds. Orders our case, their case, our case weighing their case, all side first. Starts top down. Cool.
Yeah.
Alright. Alright. Time start. Now, on indigenous people, these aren't actually turn searches. The reason why things are getting better right now, our arguments occur first on time frame, and because the military deployments are the things that cause it. No matter how the indigenous economy is doing it, the military takes down things like collaboration, which means we're studying the argument on the BMDs. First, their arguments, their arguments conceded that says that there's not an impact right now, and our argument happens as soon as the affirmative, as soon as the affirmative, they say that ASAP mean common deterrence, but there's no war there because our arguments are perception that they would attack first. Let's go to the argument of Norway. They've conceded that Norway means Article 5 means no attack, and they've also not read a warning as why escalation would occur and why it will cause the U.S. to step in. That's their argument. They just extrapolated that Norway would enter the armies as well on the Russia argument. We're going for this argument. So they make the response that the attack occurs within here, but they concede the argument on icebergs that we can't catch up, and you need the evidence within Fauci that says that Russia has modernized every single aspect of the Arctic, and it's the reason why it's conquered right now. And the U.S. will never catch up, even if we do affirm. They concede the argument that says that when the deterrence doesn't apply in the Arctic, because whenever we put troops in the Arctic is Russia's economic lifeline, which causes it to attack. They make the argument that the Afghans, that Russia's hacking already. One, they haven't isolated the argument on incentives. That more arguments that one, Russia will not attack because its economy is weak, but U.S. encroachment causes that. But let's extend the argument. Wall supplies that U.S. Arctic policy is perfectly balanced right now, and Russia will not attack, and the U.S.'s deterrence would not be effective because Russia's so far ahead. But as a result, our military presence would cause Russia to, in at least armed conflict in Russia, would also counterbalance with China and Russia. This argument is clean and drop that says that China and Russia would militarize together against the West, which leads to things like armed conflict and tensions. Let's weigh the argument. The first argument that they've conceded is that our argument is perceptible, even if their argument occurs within a year, which we say it's not. Our argument occurs immediately. Whenever the West signals that it's about to put its troops in Russia, and China will either counterbalance and launch an invasion, which always their argument on time frame. They've also not analyzed an argument why it says that there would be strikes within a year. Their evidence says that submarines were occurring in Europe, not that these submarines were strike. They've also we also make the weighing argument that says that when these countries are emboldened, they can fill up the NSR more. Or the counterbalancing argument is clean concede that says that Russia and China would also put in more subs if the West angers them. That also takes out any offense on climate change because it means that these wars make climate change worse. It distracts focus on policy. Let's go to their case. The first argument they concede on the subs arguments is a lack of incentive for Russia to launch nuclear weapons. They concede the argument that despite Russia having subs in the status quo now and subs that have BMDs, that they've not launched a nuke ever. They've also conceded the argument that SOSUS undersea things like radars also solve the argument because Russia's entire fleet is not modernized. Also, like we proved that surveillance is working right now. They've also conceded the argument that Russia actually is too scared to enter like the Arctic because of the incentive analysis that we give about economic incentives. Yeah, that's cool. Like their incentive analysis just says that Russia wants to attack the West, but we haven't seen any signs of that. Russia's being defensive. They can see the case that says that Russia has nothing to worry about to the West unless the West puts troops in and attacks its economic lifeline. Cyber. Let's go to cyber. They conceded the internal link. They make the spectral argument that says that feedback loops occur, but that's not in their card. And independently, they haven't isolated anything about how the climate change argument goes to extinction. And they make the they say we justify Republican rhetoric. This argument's like. One, no one why we do, and also no one as to why we should lose. Also, they concede the argument that says that our case prevents nuclear war.
Okay, we'll take that.
It's gonna start on our case right there.
Alright, well then.
Our case, their case, or our case blank. Okay. In that case, time starts now. Startup on subs, they told you the surveillance is working and the status quo, and we'll cross out our BMDs arguing about how we're innovating on BMDs right now, which are used to solve backdoor nuclear strikes. That means even if Russia launches, we have not deterrence, but actual capacity to stop strikes from happening in the first place, which means their argument doesn't trigger. They have conceded that surveillance works and that we have BMDs and we're innovating in the status quo, which you can't grant them access. But the argument where we'll be going for is cyber. What we tell you is that our infrastructure is failing right now because of a lack of cybersecurity, but any military presence would inherently increase cyber resilience, which allows for cross-alliance intel sharing by revitalizing competence and hubs, which Naismith cooperates, can enhance climate modeling to elicit better climate models, which is good because climate modeling lost our best practices, and that's because Taylor 15 explains that air pollution will kill 150 million for every degree of warming, and it leads to extinction by causing a feedback loop of ever hotter conditions, which leads to resource wars, which culminates in nuclear war. Their response at the end of the day is that there's no warrant, and we would say that they haven't read a warrant why extinction causes nuclear war. Ours is comparatively much better. We tell you that right now you obviously know that climate change is leading to a cascading effect, and we would say obviously that causes some form of crop failure, which causes like fights over resources. This is really silly. The evidence is read and conceded. The only thing that they've gone for is turns that they've dropped. This is so stupid. At that point, the weighing is simple. First of all, they have conceded that it is the most probable form of extinction because it happens by 2030 if uninterfered with. Even if they win their argument that a nuclear strike happens, they need to win that it surpasses deterrence or surpasses defense, which they have not, which means the probability weighing is conceded. But also, we would say that it outweighs because ours inherently outweighs on scope because if there are conflicts over resource wars, that causes infinitely more nuclear strikes per the conceded Spectre evidence, which is another place to vote. Their scenario occurs 10 times as much in our world. I don't know. Go to their case. They said a couple of things. First of all, they have conceded the uniqueness picture that right now there are subs in the Arctic that are willing to strike. They have said that we don't isolate that they're going to strike, but we've said that they have the capability to. This is the only nuclear scenario in the round because we say that right now conventional surveillance is not solving for deep sea submarines. That's really good because we would say two things. This disproves their uniqueness scenario because clearly Russia is already aggressing. Even if you don't believe that it'll lead to nuclear war, it disproves that Russia is a peaceful actor because they concede that subs are in the region right now and doing armament, which means obviously they're aggressing. But also we would say that if you do buy this, it's another great place to vote because we're the only side that can solve by using ASW deterrence, which allows us to do like sonar to detect missiles so they stop. Yeah, they've conceded the BMDs argument. That's really good because obviously, like BMDs, they've read in their own case that BMDs are a way to stop nuclear weapons. They have also, on their way. What do they say? Oh, they say if we do a war, we can't look inward. We would say that this happens afterwards because climate change happens by 2030, and if we do collaboration, modeling happens instantly, which again, always on scope. It's perceptual as well because the only reason we're not doing it in the status quo is because cybersecurity isn't good enough, which means our link triggers just as fast as theirs does. They don't do any comparative on the time frame, and BMDs is terminal defense. We outweigh on probability, we outweigh on scope.
Yeah, first question in cross. Can you explain the implication of the BMD's argument towards our contention 5?
We can stop nuclear strikes.
Yeah, it's in your case that like BMDs
Here.
are used to stop conflict.
All right, you can have a question.
Okay, cool. Joe?
I can ask.
Okay.
Let's talk about Spectre.
Yeah.
In the card you sent, where do you say feedback loops and where do you say nuclear war?
Okay. It says, by 2050, the planet plunges into an ever hotter, ever deadlier conditions. Our conflicts over resources are
This is just debate. I read a card, and he says there's no warrant. Josh gets the warrant. You say there's no warrant again.
Let your partner read the chart. I just did. Also, there was no counter warrant in summary, like absolutely none. So all we have to do is read a warrant.
Of the internal link.
No, but you did not read a counter warrant.
Yes, our warranting is definitely the best on the question.
Insofar
You
as
have to
there's
go
none.
off of that.
Like, and there's no warrant on my nuclear war cause extinction in your case, like, or did you extend
You
it?
say like it'll cause like conflict and stuff. Like
That's
that's the
not
extension I get in
well,
summary.
well,
So if you want a dog on
our-
internal link scenarios, like come on.
Our weighing is specific to conflict scenarios causing a turn inwards. Your argument does not establish why a feedback loop occurs, and it does not establish why nuclear weapons would be used.
Like,
We say resource
yeah,
wars.
we say resource wars, and it includes that it will end in civilization. And the most important thing to realize is there was no counter warrant thread. So if we just read a
There's not
warrant,
a counter warrant to our argument either. I'm just not understanding.
okay, sure, but there's terminal defense to your argument.
I'm just trying to understand the climate change.
okay.
If there's no internal link, it's also terminal defense.
Wait,
Also, let's
You're gonna
go. Let's go to your way. You say time frame because it's like a perceptual argument. How is our argument not perceptual?
Your argument about there's no bright line on when your argument solves things like climate change. When does international modeling?
I mean, these are new critiques of the argument. What we would say is that the time frame weighing that hasn't been contested is that as soon as you buff up cybersecurity, it allows for nations.
This argument is new to the second summary. We haven't
No, it's
had
not.
a
That's
chance
in
to-
case. The argument that is in case is that our argument is perceptual.
And then
When
it's
you buff up
extended. It also doesn't have to
cybersecurity.
read an extension. It's like
Wait, hold up. This argument is about data sharing.
Yes,
Independently, if you want me to explain why our argument
data
is
sharing
perceptual,
doesn't
the argument is because whenever you affirm Russia would attack.
Yeah, I'm just saying the comparative isn't there. So like the time frame weighing.
Wait, the comparative is that our argument is a perceptual argument. so
Our
Russia would
argument is
attack.
also perceptual.
Other
which
countries
is
start
conceded
sharing with us when we upgrade cyber resilience.
because they're not.
But
afraid
our
of cyber
conflict
attacks
scenario
anymore.
occurs. Your guideline to cooperation is not established.
What does that
So
what does that
mean?
mean?
when does cooperation
everything
solve
has
climate change?
everything in the argument except for no internal war and how climate change causes
Wait,
extinction
you-
is
you-
essentially
You've asked
conceded.
me a question about when the bright line occurs.
But it's uncontested.
All right, what is going to be our case? And then I'll send question there. Is anyone not ready? All right. Both sides have a lack of internal link on their impact scenario, but that doesn't matter. You can just scratch out any quote unquote impact because of the fact that no side has internal link. This event is really simple. At the end of the day, both sides leading to extinction. So you see which scenario happens first. First, on the idea that BMD solved. One, this is not a perceptual argument. We make the argument that as soon as you affirm Russia immediately escalates to nuclear use. That happens before we can even implement BMDs we solved in the first place. And it definitely comes before the extinction scenario on climate change. Yes, perceptually, you can increase collaboration immediately. But the matter of the fact is that your extinction scenarios do not happen until 2050, whereas our extinction scenarios happen as soon as you affirm, which means that that's an independent reason why our argument that Russia comes first. At that point, the Russia argument is very, very easy to vote for. They have conceded so many spikes that respond to every single response. First off, they have conceded that our current strategic implementation is right at one enough to deter, where it avoids escalation, where it's preventing Russia from getting an incentive to believe that they can quote unquote use their nuclear submarine to destroy our arsenals. And two, they have not isolated a single one. Right, Russia wants to nuke our abilities in the first place. They have one conceded that Russia wants to avoid war because they have relied on the economic abilities in the Arctic. But two, they conceded that the way that Russia views the terms is completely different from the U.S., which is why when we do quote unquote defend their policies in the Arctic, then Russia immediately militarizes and as a result escalates the conflict. At that point, the argument is also really, really simple. Actually, yeah, that's really simple. Look, at the end of the day, both sides lead to escalation. It's not a question of probability or time frame. New probability weighing is just new quote-unquote impact defense. But the matter of the fact is that our time frame weighing arguments happen way earlier than theirs do. Climate change doesn't trigger extinction until 2050, even if collaboration happens immediately. And these definitely don't solve because Russia escalates before we can even implement it. Also, that argument is totally new. There's zero reason why they solve, why they're able to intercept or solve these nuclear arms in the first place. And two, we also argue that if the nukes explode, that still triggers the argument on why nuclear escalation triggers extinction. And also, there's no evidence on how it prevents it from happening in the first place. And also, this wasn't applied in rebuttal. You can't make a totally new cross act in second summary. That's definitely too late.
Wars cause turn in climate change.
Also, yeah, any risk of war causes
International cooperation.
destroys international cooperation because they're focusing on war.
Okay, we have 20 seconds. Yeah, no, I got it. Yeah. Okay. I'll do our case weighing their case. Yeah. No, I'll do it on there. Okay. Anyone not ready? Okay. Just because no team reads a good internal link scenario is not a reason you don't have to read one in Final Focus. There was no explanation as to how nuclear war caused extinction in Final Focus. You should feel highly uncomfortable voting on their case. At that point, let's extend our argument. All 20 says that Arctic infrastructure is failing right now because of a lack of cybersecurity. Thankfully, holding rights to any military country and handling increased cyber resilience explains that allows for cross-alliance control sharing and revitalizing continents and hubs, which makes us collaboration which can enhance climate models to elicit better practices, which is key because the Arctic is warming 3 times as fast as other regions of the world. And spectrum explains that by 2050, the planet plummeting ever hotter, ever deadlier conditions the result of the end of civilization. At the end of the day, this argument is conceded through every single speech. The linking to the extinction era is conceded. The thing that is also conceded is our weighing, that we are way out of scope because we cause massive amounts of war that are not just between the Russian Russia and the United States and China, but between every single other country, which is fundamentally conceded. They've also conceded our argument that this is the most probable form of extinction in the world, because they've conceded that we are on the path to extinction right now because of climate change, which means we fundamentally are away. Go to their case. The biggest thing you realize is that they so mishandle the DMG argument in Final Focus. Our argument is very simple. Right now, we A, have DMGs, and B, are upgrading them in the status quo. They just say that that's not a perceptual argument. Yes, it's not a perceptual argument. Our argument is that you can literally take the missiles out of the sky because we have ballistic missile defense, which means root nuclear war doesn't even happen. Even if they win, the escalation happens, it does not matter because this is terminal defense in their case. They've also conceded this takes out their impact scenario because it's terminal defense, because even if a nuclear war starts, it does not mean that it caused extinction. On their way, they just say that we look in, A, no warrant read as to why, but B, no warrant read as to why this actually matters when it comes to the round. We would say that right now we are doing cross-line intel share, or we would do cross-line intel sharing, and they conceded that we are doing climate modeling in the midst of the Ukrainian war. This weighing is ludicrous. Their also other weighing is that their argument just happens first. This is so silly. They are not winning a link into their case. We have implicated the DMG's argument as terminal defense to their case. If we're upgrading it right now, and we are going to upgrade in the future, and we already have DMGs, obviously no war is going to happen. This was dropped in summary, and Frontline knew in Final Focus. It's just so clean for the app.
You're